recording has begun. Good afternoon, welcome back. This is Chris McKinney. I'm an education specialist here in Edinburgh for Region 1 Gear Up. I'm very excited to have you all join us, and we have two wonderful speakers for this session and possibly the next. We'll see how things work out. If we don't scare them off. No, just kidding. We have Dr. Ida Cunha-Garza with the South Texas Literary Coalition and Ms. Teresa Villarreal from UTRGV. Application and scholarship admissions office along those lines.
I'm the scholarship coordinator.
Scholarship coordinator, there you go, thank you. Kind of mixing the last
That's okay.
And they're going to give us some wonderful insight, maybe some resources and some tools to help us navigate the process of not only applying for college, but more importantly, scholarships to get into college, help pay. Our last speaker said she was debt-free after 4 years of college because of scholarships. And that is rare, but you can do it too. And so they're going to give you some helpful hints and tips to make you, it's going to take a little sacrifice on your side, but it's well worth it in the end, as you'll find out. So I'm excited to have, at least for now, Ms. Garcia's class in Wesco. Welcome, Panthers. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Teresa and let you begin, ma'am.
All right. As scholarship coordinator, I read a lot of scholarship applications. I'm the administrator for the university's scholarship application that's available online. And so every day I'm reading scholarship applications or reading what students submit in order to be eligible for scholarships here at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. And what I have learned over the last 2 years is that we get a lot of really good applications, but we get a lot of students who obviously are not putting a lot of time into it. And so what I really recommend to students is take the time when doing these scholarship applications, because they are being read and we are, choosing recipients based on the information from the scholarship applications. I would like to start off by telling students to read the questions and make sure that they're answering the question that was asked in an original, organized way. I read so many applications, short answers that are written like a text message with bad grammar and no punctuation. And so you are being judged by what is submitted. So it's really important to use complete sentences and check the grammar. Use complete words. I see a lot of U's, just the letter U, or non-capitalized I's. And so grammar is important in these things. It's also really important to have clear, specific answers. A lot of times, students will ask students what their goals are, and their goals are to graduate from college and get a good job without specifying what they're studying or what they would want to major in. So being specific is good. I also find that including personal experiences or personal anecdotes really kind of help us know the student a little bit better. And so if you can include a story that kind of tells us who you are, it helps when we're deciding on scholarship recipients. And those things, not only for scholarships at UTRGV, but at any application or any scholarship format, I think it's very important to keep those things in mind, to be clear, be specific, give a personal example. Do you have any questions?
Good wait time. Go ahead and continue, ma'am.
A lot of scholarship applications will ask for volunteer experience or extracurricular activities, and in my opinion, it's extremely important to list exactly what that experience was, where you did your volunteer work, what what the activity was, and what you did in order to help the community, and how long, because that also helps the people reading the application know the student a little bit better. There's a couple of things that I would say, please don't start with a negative comment. We get a lot of students who say, no, I never did any volunteer work, or no, I'm not involved in any extracurricular activities. And I think in that case, it's always a better choice to say, I worked while I was in school and this was my work experience, and not necessarily start off with a negative, no, I didn't do it. Start off with what you did do, and that's important. Christopher, do we have any questions? Yeah.
Not yet. I'm just checking the chat. I just always kind of do a little welcome in the chat feature, but so far, I guess you're answering all the questions that they have. And a lot of times they're a little shell-shocked. They don't know what questions at first, or if they're taking notes, they haven't kind of gathered it all in. So, you know, just keep following along, or if you want to introduce the site, maybe places to go and apply. I mean, whatever you're.
I can do that. Since most of the participants are juniors,
that's correct.
I would like to talk about the scholarships that we have for incoming students, for new students, and entering transfer students. We do scholarships at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley in two ways. For incoming freshmen, there is our merit-based scholarships that do not have a specific application. We're looking at all the information submitted with the admissions applications. So when doing the Apply Texas, it's important to list all your extracurricular activities, to list the community service, and also to answer the essays on the admissions application, because that's what we're looking at for our incoming freshman scholarships, our merit-based scholarships. And they are and if you look at the screen, the UT RGV Scholars Program, which is a renewable 4-year undergraduate scholarship. It's a $20,000 scholarship. It's $5,000 each academic year. We also have a housing scholarship that's automatically renewable for students for the 4 years that they're working on their undergraduate degree, and it's valued at $12,000 for the 4 years. And then we have an entering freshman gateway. And the Gateway Scholarship is a one-time award, and it's up to $3,000. Again, those do not have a specific application. We're looking at the information that is submitted with the Apply Texas application. So it's important for students to do their best when submitting that Apply Texas application. You have good essays, list all of the activities, because that's what we're looking at to award those. We also have our departmental and endowment scholarships. And those are based on the online application. And the online application, let me click on that one so I can show it to you. I have it on another screen. We'll just go to Apply Today. You create a username and password. I have my own username and password. And this application opens in October. So juniors, the beginning of your senior year, after October 1st, you can submit this application. And it is the one application for all university endowment and departmental scholarships. And there's mine. The first page is the general profile information, but it does have these short answers that need to be submitted with the application. They're not required, but it does help us when we're selecting our recipients to be able to read these. And they're the usual questions that are asked for scholarships. Member of student organization, again, list the student organizations and your role within the organization. Have you participated in volunteer work, internships, or a job that has deeply impacted you? Please explain the organization you work for, your duties, and how the experience affected you. I read these a lot, and the more detailed, the more students can tell us about themselves in answering this question is helpful. Tell us about a personal experience that helped you pursue higher education, inspired you to pursue higher education, and choose your career path. That's a good one to get personal and to tell us why you chose to that degree, why you have chosen to continue your education. Specifics are great, and then your goals, and also be specific on the goals. What kind of work do you want to do when you graduate? what do you hope to accomplish within the next 5 or 10 years? And once those are complete, students can click over to the scholarship results tab. And the scholarship results is a list of all scholarships that the student may be eligible for based on the information provided on the profile. Some of those have additional questions that need to be answered, and they have a number next to it. If you click on the number, it'll give you the additional questions that need to be answered. The deadline for incoming freshmen to submit this is January 15th. So students have from October 1st to January 15th to complete this. It also requires a recommendation. And right on this tab, you can click to request a recommendation, and this you can email the recommender. The recommender gets this email that has a link and the student's specific recommendation code. If they send it to the recommender, then the recommender goes online and completes an online recommendation. We don't accept recommendation letters. All our recommendations are done through this portal. Once that's submitted, it shows back up on the student's profile page, and it'll say that the recommendation is complete. So that's for institutional, all our university scholarships.
Very comprehensive. That's awesome.
I didn't realize there were so many scholarships you could apply for. Awesome.
Yes, and the good thing is that it's all done through the one application. Students don't have to create an application. For example, if they're going into the Department of Biomedical Sciences, they don't have to specifically apply into that department. The department will choose students based on them having submitted this application, as well as endowment scholarships, money that people have given the university for us to award in scholarships. The selection is done through this one online application.
I heard Ms. Garcia's class in Wesco. Do y'all have any questions for us? Not yet. Okay. Thank you for replying.
So I'd like to reiterate some do's and don'ts. The do's in the do column. Do be original, be clear and organized, be sure that you've answered the question or the topic clearly, include why you deserve the scholarship, whether it's financial need, explain your situation, explain how the scholarship would benefit you. That's always a good one. Accomplishments, this is the time to talk about how much you've done as a student, how much you've been able to accomplish, and of course what you hope to accomplish, what your goals are. You also want to be able to explain financial need. If it's a need-based scholarship, explain why you need the money, why the money would be important to you. And spelling and grammar is also very, very important. In the don'ts, don't be general. Don't leave out details. Also, don't really unnecessary information. And of course, be careful with the spelling and the punctuation. This is the time for the student to really sell themselves to the scholarship committee or the people that are reading the scholarship. I recommend start with an outline, list the things, and then go back and add the details. Personal stories are always very impactful. I remember several stories that I've read that really made an impact on me because they were very personal. And then find creative ways to appeal to the scholarship committee, be passionate, develop the ideas, make sure that the essay has good flow and that it's honest. A lot of times, we get the same, I want to be a nurse because I want to help people, or I hope to graduate from college and help my family. Specifics are always, very beneficial.
That's great advice, Teresa. I know that one of the things that was shared this morning and that I thought was really a good idea, is that these, endowments, these benefactors, they are not just giving the money to the kids and it's selfish, like just for one person. What they want to hear is how is it going to change you and how you're going to turn it around and affect others, either in your family, in your school, in your community, so that as they, give for one scholarship, it's going to be affecting multiple lives and possibly generations. And so that was impactful. Instead of just saying, I need it. Yes, I'm poor, this, that, and the other. Instead of just being me, saying, I want to turn it around. And by educating myself, I can then, do all these things. Similar to what you're saying, I want to be a nurse because I want to help others. But how? That's a pretty generic. And so I like that. Dr. Ida, would you like to kind of comment? I know that you're coming in from a reader perspective, that you're on many boards and many scholarship committees.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and welcome to the students from Weslaco. I want to tell you that as a person who's been on, I've served on scholarship committees, and done interviews, but also as a person from the community that helps raise funds. My women's club, for example, raises funds. We don't raise a lot of funds because we don't have the opportunity to do that, but we raise some. And when we work hard at raising those funds, we sell things, we put together things, we do all kinds of stuff. And I'm talking from the community. I'll talk a little bit from the corporate level in a minute, but as local people who are raising funds, we're thinking about what the community is going to be like tomorrow and what you're going to give back. And we're looking at students who are passionate about what they have, and we're passionate about raising the funds. All the women in my club say, okay, we've got the scholarship fund, we've got to raise funds, we've got to do this. Whether it's selling a Valentine's basket or, doing some kind of tickets or whatever we're selling for the scholarship, we want to make sure that the student is passionate about their school, and that they also, that student is the deserving student. So that they're the ones that want to, that the money's going to go to the right student, and that we don't hear a year later that they dropped out of college because whatever. So even if sometimes we've given $1,000, sometimes we've given $100, but $100, if you think, well, I'm not going to apply for that. Well, $100 can buy one textbook. I know that when I taught at the university level, one textbook was $75. And so to pull $75 from somewhere, if you can get that, a bunch of little scholarships to help pay for that, there's a lot of us out in the community trying to give you that opportunity. And we don't care how many other little scholarships you get, but if we can purchase one book for your biology class or for whatever, that's meaningful to us. But know that from our side of it, we've worked very hard to raise every penny that we can give out there. And the reason I say sometimes we've given 1,000, sometimes we've given 100, is because it's the amount of scholarship applications that we get. If we get 8 and we only have, $800 to give that year, then we divide it up. And of course we read the application. We make sure if we can, we'll have interviews. It's not always possible, but we can, we try to. But if we can give them $100, we'll give it all out, no matter what it is. And if we've got 2 applicants and we have $1,200, then we're happy to give them $600. Our goal as a club, when we decided all the scholarship money we raised this year, we're giving out, no matter, So we try to divvy it up. We haven't really worked at saying, okay, well, we'll have a $500 scholarship and then we'll have 5 $100 scholarships. It's all about trying to spread our efforts out as much as possible. The other thing I wanted to share is, well, from the corporate perspective, Ms. Villarreal already talked about that. They're looking at making sure that we have a guaranteed cadre of professionals out there for tomorrow. Who's going to replace Ms. Villarreal? Who's going to replace Chris? Who's going to replace me in the future doing things? And so getting well trained, sticking to it, having a passion, and knowing that you're going to be out there, you're going to be the leader tomorrow. And so they want to make sure that we're able to provide the resources needed by the for the students that they need to be able to do the best that they can. The other idea I wanted to bring out to you is that committees, it's really helpful, I think, if all of you do a personal profile, because that kind of gets you to thinking about your own personal thing. There was a question right now that Ms. Verdell pointed out that said, where are you going to be in 10 years? That's a very powerful question. And I was doing a presentation one time for a group of students in Cotulla, at Cotulla High School. And I asked that question, where are you going to be 5 years from now? And many of the students said, I'll be in college, because they were 10th graders. And a good answer, right? Some of them said, I'm going to be working in the oil field. Okay. Where are you going to be 10 years from now? And some said, well, I'll be graduated from high school, and hopefully I'll be teaching math at the high school here or somewhere. And a few students said, I'm going to be working in the oil field. Okay. And one student said, I'm going to be in college. And everybody laughed. And I said, you want to, expand on that? She said, yes, I want to be a pediatric cardiologist. And I said, that's an amazing, you've already got your goals in mind of what you want to do. It takes a lot of training to be a pediatric cardiologist for children. Oh my goodness, that's what a wonderful passion that she had. But she knew that it was going to take 12 to 16 years to get there, after she did all the schooling, all the 4 years, of getting a science degree and then applying to medical school and doing all that, and the internships and all the things that she had to do to be well trained to be the best pediatric cardiologist she could be. So you see, creating a personal profile, you develop that idea. What are you going to be? Where are you going to be 5 or 10 years from now? And what are you going to be doing for the community? I want you to think about your leadership skills. I want you to think about, if you say, I served on the food bank committee. Well, that's good, but did you just mean you were on the committee and you showed up to meetings every now and then? Or did you have to contact a bunch of people to help get food to where you were you working with a food bank? Or did they tell you, go to Walmart, go to H-E-B, or be in charge of this, go talk to different people? Did you direct the organization of all the canned goods? Were you in charge of a certain section? Did you coordinate? Did you organize other volunteers to help? Did you raise funds to be able to help? Whatever, maybe you were doing a special sort of food distribution, and you wanted all the boxes to have Christmas, on them, and you organized a group of people and you raised funds to get the supplies, to decorate the boxes, to do all those things. Did you develop something different? Did you do kind of a, you took the food over there, but maybe you did, and of course, maybe, I'm in literacy, so maybe you did, along with that, you coordinated with another organization like the South Texas Literacy Coalition and said, we're going to do this food distribution to all of these families. Can you give us books to do that? And so, see, that's going another step. That's beyond just serving on a committee. So think about the kinds of words that you're going to give, because that tells Ms. Fiorell and her group and us that are out in the community giving scholarships, hey, you really went out of your way. You just weren't there as a warm body. You went above and beyond and did lots of different things. Your extracurricular involvement is very important. There's also some leadership there. The way you present yourself, of course, we've already mentioned grammar and punctuation is very, very important. I cannot overemphasize, and I'll say it a million times, have someone edit your essay. Have them, have in mind, go in there to that UTRGV scholarship page and look at what the questions are. And write down, some things, some ideas, and then edit that, and then you'll have what you want to put in there in terms of that. Your educational career goals and plans, so important. Again, we've said, I want to be a nurse because of this. Well, I want to, be a teacher because several teachers encouraged me. I felt like I couldn't you know, I was not good at math, and I couldn't do this, and I couldn't read well, but several teachers were there for me, and I want to do the same thing for other students. And that's very powerful. An anecdote, you know, is a little story that tells and kind of describes an experience you've had or something that you've done before. I'll give you a quick example. My oldest son, Jay, was very active in the 4-H program here in Hidalgo County. And he showed beef animals throughout his 4-H career. He studied foods and nutrition. He did leadership activities, and he did shooting sports, shooting clay birds and that kind of stuff. And so the biggest time spent was in the showing of the beef animals. And so at several shows that he showed before he went to the Rio Grande Valley Livestock Show, he was first place in showmanship. Now, I don't know how many of y'all know about this, but showmanship is, can you get the animal to stand there so that a judge can come and look and see? And there's techniques that you use to be able to do that. You have a stick that you rub the animal's tummy and they stand there. You have a different way of having them stand, like, don't slouch, you know, be very straight. And think about a beef animal, a big old 1,000-pound steer or whatever. It's a technique, right? So in several shows, he was grand champion, which means he was the best. In a few shows, he was in the top 2. And in a bunch of shows, not in a bunch of shows, I would say in 2 shows, he was last place. And that was such a blow to him. And he's the kind that bounces back and says, well, you know, I had 10 first places and 2 last places, but I don't get it. And I told him, I said, well, you know, it's like you might make the best broccoli casserole in the entire world, but if the people you're serving it to don't like broccoli, you know, it doesn't matter how good it is, they're not going to go for it. So in his, he applied for a scholarship through the 4-H program, and they do it through writing a record book. And a record book has all kinds of information of all the stuff that you've done and a 4-H story, which is in essence a scholarship application essay. And in his 4-H story, he said, my biggest learning experience in 4-H was learning about failure. And the first time that I got sent to the back of the line, because they do this, it's very, very out in the open, very transparent. You're lined up and they start moving you, and you don't know at first if the judge is moving people and this is the first of the line or if this is the first of the line. So it's even the audience doesn't know. And he said, when I got pushed back, I thought, okay, I'm at the end over here, so I must be first. And they gave the blue ribbon to the guy over here, or the girl, whatever. And he said, I learned more from failure than from my successes. I learned how to be humble. I learned that I needed to not be perhaps so cocky when I went into a show thinking, oh, I know how to do this. I learned that there's probably, if in that competition there was 25 other students showing their animal, they might have been just as good as me. And there was 25 good ones. And the judge had to be very then subjective in saying, I'm going to select this one. All of you are good. And many of them would say that. All of you are excellent. But I'm going to go with this one for whatever reason. So you see, that's an anecdote that he put in there. And I'm proud to say that he won first place with this record book, and he got to go to Chicago for the National 4-H Congress, and he got a scholarship, you know, for college. And it was an amazing thing. I didn't really help him with the scholarship. I helped edit, and I had tears in my eyes when I read it. I said, Jay, I'm so proud of you. Wow. He said, well, I didn't know what to write, but you know, this is what impacted me. This is in my life, and this is going to be part of me for the rest of my life. I'm going to think about when I do something about success and about failure and what I've learned. So I wanted to share that with you because it is very, very important. I don't know if there's any questions up to now. I think I saw something that said they were logging off. I'm not sure. Are they still on or? Okay.
Christopher, you're muted.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're exactly right. I have a squeaky chair, so a lot of times I mute it so y'all don't hear all that background noise.
Are
Yeah,
they
they had a
still
lot
on?
of this is our toughest sessions are after lunch because sometimes they have a later lunch because now that they're juniors and seniors, they do the freshman, sophomore, or something.
Oh, okay.
And I was hoping that maybe someone else would log on, but at this late in the stage, we're doing great. And I mean, they're still we're recording it, and they're gonna be able to view
Okay.
it later on. So it's all valuable information and stuff. I have
Okay.
a lot of facilitators that actually tell me they like the tape version in the sense that they can stop it and kind of use it as a teaching
Oh,
tool.
sure.
They can take it
Yeah.
into like a substitute class when
Yeah.
the teacher calls in sick, and they can really impact the kids in a different way. I mean,
Sure.
I obviously like live because they can ask a question and you can have immediate feedback, but
Yeah.
it's so hard because of their bell schedules. Some just
Yeah.
don't want to be rude and come in 10 minutes late.
Yeah.
And so
But it's awesome that you're taping it. Well, I just wanted to share a couple of more things.
yeah, please go right ahead.
Okay. In that personal profile, and I'm saying develop this personal profile so that you have something to write from, so that you can cut and paste, so that you have given some thought to this. And Mr. Ariel was very, very, correct in saying, give it some time. Don't do this in the 11th hour. If you have this personal profile that has all these things, then, if it asks about talking about your career goals, well, you've already kind of thought that through, and I want to do this, because I want to do this in the future, or whatever. The other thing is any special circumstances that may have happened. There may be tragedy, there may be some, positive thing that happened that influenced you. And so, but giving insight about who you are, who are you? Where do you come from? What is it about you that is unique? What are your skills and talents? You generally put that, and that's not easy to do. If I asked you to write 10 things that were positive about you and 10 things that were negative about you, most people start with the negative. I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I'm not creative, I'm not whatever. And, because we feel like, well, it's very self-serving to say, well, I'm an excellent speaker, or I'm very organized, or I'm very personable, I love to work with people. It's hard to say that about ourselves sometimes, but you need to do it. Because those skills and talents will tell people. If you're going to be in communications, I would expect that you would say, one of my best skills is I love to be with people. I love to talk with people. I love to listen. And if you're going to be a communications major, it matches, you see. It blends in very, very well. If you don't mention anything about that and you want to be a communications person, it might be the deciding factor for me. Even though you had a great essay, but it just didn't flow right into what your career plan was. And this person over here said, just picking it out of the air, I watched my mother take care of my grandparents for many, many years. I learned what CNAs do when they come to the house. And that really influenced me in terms of wanting to help people get better. And that's what made me want to be a nurse, or I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. And I heard this not too long ago in those interviews that I've been in. My grandfather's a diabetic, and I saw him lose his toe and his leg and this kind of thing, and it made a big impact on me. And I thought, there's got to be a cure to diabetes. There's got to be a way to get people to take better care of themselves, and that's why I want to be a doctor. That's an impacting thing. And when you start your application or whatever, or you mention that somewhere in your application, if you have an essay, if you started like that, then I'll remember it, because it's the first thing I read, and I think, wow, this is a kid who's got really some goals, who's been impacted by something in real life, who really wants to make a difference. And so that's so important. How you decide to act upon something, what motivates you to get out there and do something, that's really important. I've asked that question, what motivates you to want to go to college? What motivates you to study this? And it throws some students for a loop. It's just like, well, I don't know. I want to do it. Well, that's another place for an anecdote that you can have. How you approach problem solving. is another one. How do you approach solving a dilemma or a concern or a problem in the community or a problem in your family? You know, are you organized? Do you kind of look at the situation? How do you decide which side you're on, or how do you decide how to go about solving a problem? That's very, very important. When you're asked, tell me about yourself, and now I'm kind of talking in interviews. You know, a lot of kids will say, well, I was born, you know, in Edinburgh on a cold, rainy day in January, whatever, and I'm the second of, you know, 5 children. Well, okay, but that's not what I want to hear. You know, I want to hear, well, I was born here in Edinburgh, I've gone to school here, or I migrated, or whatever the history is. But in my all this time and through the influence of my teachers, I want to be a teacher because it makes such an important difference in people's lives. I want to teach reading because I know that when you read, reading takes you to different places. It takes you to different worlds. It helps you to learn about travel. It takes you into fantasy. It takes you into sci-fi. And I'm really a good reader, and I want to instill that gift of reading into other children. And that's why I want to be a teacher. So you see, it gives us more to go on rather than the basic. What makes you stand out? You may have picked, and as Ms. Villarreal I think can attest to, 200 other students applied for the scholarship, and they have to answer the same question as you. So how is it going to be different than the rest of them? And I know we've said this over and over again. Don't be redundant. You know, don't say the same thing over. This is why it's so important to write it out, do this personal profile, get all the thoughts in your head, put it in a Word document. You can cut and paste if you want. And sometimes you surprise yourself. You'll write stuff and you think, wow, that sounds pretty good. Let somebody else read it and edit it for you, and that way you'll have the best description of yourself possible. You're writing, it reflects who you are and what you stand for. That's so important, and that's the only thing we have in an application to see what kind of person you are, to get a picture, if you will, of you. And so, you know, do that as much as possible, but take your time doing it, and then get the best thing on that Word document in your personal profile. And then you can pick and choose from there what you want to put in these questions. Read the instructions. That's so important. And answer the question that you're being asked. Lots of times, I'll give you an example that's kind of off the wire, but still just an example about not reading not answering the question. I was teaching a graduate class in educational psychology, and my students had to do a presentation, they had to do research, and they had to do a community project. But in the research, you know, they had to write about that and then tie the research to the community project. Well, I had a group of students, and they worked in groups. Asked the question, the title of their essay was, or their research project was, does poverty impact academic achievement? Okay. So they went out and they did some tutoring in one of the poorest areas, one of the colonias, and they did all kinds of different things. And then they did the research and they wrote the paper and all that stuff. But they never answered the question. When I read it, it didn't flow. They picked research from here and from there and kind of put it together. And some sources said yes, and some sources said no, and then some sources indicated interventions that would be important. And when I gave it back to them without a grade, they were in shock. And I said, well, your title says, does poverty impact academic achievement? But you never answered the question. You didn't say, yes, it does, based on these sources, or it can, but not necessarily, or it's important for children that live in poverty areas to have these kinds of interventions. There was nothing in that respect. So they had to go back to the drawing board, and it was a big lesson. This was a master's level, okay? And so I think we get by too often with doing a lot of work but never getting really to the answer. So very, very important for you to realize, what is it asking me? Go in there, figure out what the question is. What is it asking me? And did I answer the question? That's so important. So, you just have to take your time to do this, because it's not going to happen just overnight. You can't think, there's no way that your brain can process that. And you have to have time for somebody to edit what you've written. Does it sound good? Does it make a point? Let's say you're reading my essay. Would it convince you to give me a scholarship or not? So important. Of course, what we said, make sure your grammar is impeccable and your spelling is impeccable. And make an outline, so important about make an outline of what you want to write about the points. When you read the question, it automatically brings things to your mind. Okay, make an outline. Did I answer this point? Did I answer this point? And sometimes it's way off base. So that's why you need somebody to read that. So.
Great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Eder.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Friel, any other things you want to share?
Well, I think that what Dr. Acuña said is so true. We can't stress enough, be personal, give an anecdote, tell us a good story, set yourself apart from the other applicants if you can. Details never hurt, anybody. It's lack of detail that does hurt in this situation. Be specific, and it's amazing how many times that question is not answered, where it's just a lot of random information without actually answering the question that's asked on the scholarship application or the essay question, and proofreading and having somebody else. That was a really good point about having somebody else read it and ask your proofreader, would you give me the scholarship? Is this a good enough essay in your opinion? Because opinions are, a good thing to have in this situation.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to share one more thing. I found some information about, generic statement, about the issue of trying to make your scholarship stand out. Mm-hmm. And the generic statement that was given was, being chosen as captain of the soccer team made me more mature. Okay, that's good. Well, an alternative description is, what I learned from being the captain of the soccer team was how to motivate and encourage others effectively when situations seem hopeless, and also how to work in a team, as a team. So you see the difference there. So that's the kind of detail that Ms. Vidal is talking about. Tell me what that meant. What does that mean? So you're more mature? Okay, but how? How did it make you? And so encouraging others and motivating others and creating that team spirit, that teamwork, that's powerful stuff. Because, I've told students many times, the kind of student that you are in high school is the kind of worker you're going to be in the workforce. If you're the kind that waits till the last minute to do stuff, you're going to be doing that at work, and it may cost you to lose your job. If you never did your homework, and if you flew by the edge of your pants, and you do that at work, it can cause a major mistake. And so those kinds of skills of teamwork, motivation, encouragement, kind of getting hey, we got to get this done. Let's get this team together. Those are the skills that you're going to be using in the workforce. Sometimes even much more so than all of the academic stuff that you learned, because then you got to work with other people, and you got to make it happen, and you got to solve problems, and you got to produce results. And so all of this is in the back of our minds as we're judging or evaluating your scholarship application.
Excellent. So true. So true. Thank you. Well, this kind of completes the time for this session. I know y'all probably have some things to do. We do have the 2:30 slot, so we have a nice little break in between and catch up on some emails or phone calls and things of that nature. But again,
that you would like us to add during that session or expand on?
Just, I know you were sharing the screen before we got started. If you have, some other slides that you want to share, if you will. I think the application process, I loved how you went into it as if that were there, and how to fill the boxes out, questions. That was very impactful and powerful to me. And I think that really resonates with them. You know, they have no idea.
Right.
I think just tell them to sacrifice. I mean, you know, just a little bit of time could pay big dividends later.
Right.
You know, so it's like a job. Something else that I heard last month with someone is they said, you know, because of time management is so key, and, you know, laziness or this, that, and the other with the kids, if they can take some time, like devote, you know, Saturday afternoon or Sunday mornings before, after church, you know, block of, you know, an hour or two every, you know, weekend like that, and say, okay, I'm going to research 3 scholarships, or I'm going to fill out 5 scholarship, you know, whatever it is, and just task yourself and make sure you do it, you know, and just follow through. And if you know, some other time builds up over, well, I guess Judy from this morning, Teresa, that we practiced with yesterday, Judy from STC, she said she spent the entire Christmas vacation filling out the Gates Millennium Scholar, where she finished and went on to others. And like I said, she had her entire, you know, 4 years paid for and had no debt at the end of college.
Awesome.
Went to UT in Austin, and that's expensive up there, you know, and you think of
I know.
everything. And so that was impressive that, you know, she said, yes, you know, family time is important, you know, holidays is, but hey, you know, she was focused and she really put a lot of effort into.
Well, you know, that's
research.
really important. I forgot to mention that in all of the issues in writing, sometimes you can get so blown out of the water. You're just like, oh, I don't know what else to write. I'm blocked. So take some time, do part of it, come back, look at it, or go to the next question, do a little bit, and then take a break. Go do something else, you know, and over a period of time. That's why we say take your time.
Yes.
Several months, if possible, to get it, you know, the best that you can.
You're exactly right. Great advice. Okay. Yeah. And so just that's kind of what we're looking for. You know, we just got to get, you know, some pearls of wisdom. You don't know what they're going to take, and you know, hopefully a compilation of all of it. And
it'll all be good. Yeah.
Yes, it will. It's all good.
Okay.
There's
Well,
no dumb questions. There's no dumb answers. We need all the help we can get.
Okay.
I'm learning from these as well.
Yeah. So we'll see you at 2:30 then.
See you at 2:30. Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.